Dapan yotam Pozpazi totam alamdaz. Welcome to the Pozcast with Younus Beigh. This is the second episode of Pozcast. Patimis Pozcastasmas Yim Asit Mehman Urs, Mr. Shafat Qazi. I just want to reintroduce the guest for the new audience who will be joining us on this episode of Postcast. A humble boy who was born in Jawaharnagar, $7 had daim to live that American dream. Life wasn't easy, but his determination was more bigger, very strong than any other challenge. And rest was history. Shafat Qazi was nominated as the top 50 influential CEOs of the world. Welcome, Shafat Qazi. Shafat sir, you are someone who has worked with hundreds of businesses globally, from Shanghai to Tokyo, from London to New York, or from Srinagar to the very far from Kupwara or Kashmir to Kanyakumari. And you have witnessed the actual realities of businesses. What do you think is the single biggest lie we tell ourselves and our youth about businesses?
Well, I think the biggest claim that people often make, first of all, Assalamu alaikum to everyone. I should appreciate and thank everyone for bringing me back. And I know today I'm being challenged with some of the statements I made in the last podcast, and we're going to focus on that. But going back to your question, Janab, the biggest lie we had on the business was that this is for losers. So, in other words, Kashiri Maza is I say at least at the time I was growing up, ke doctor ban, engineer ban, agar ne kihin tages wal tel kare business ke, right? That was a guy who didn't make it to the engineering or medical college. He would make it to the business, and then it would be often failures after failures, and then the collaboration and overall even to the point कि कश्मीर में जैसे करा professionals families खानदारी business families because they felt that there was incompatibility. So I thought that was the biggest lie. I like to reverse that trend. I like to tell them that actually the losers are the engineers and doctors. The winners who make a difference in our lives are the entrepreneurs,
The
who
leaders.
make the change and who drive the innovation. And look at this technology today. This podcast is going to be all over the world in minutes. And that is not necessarily a doctor or an engineer, but an entrepreneur who came up with this technology.
So, guys, this is the opening flow of the structure. Everyone has got a dream or a business idea, but the first punch that hits hard is where is the money? Just last is podcast. I randomly asked you a question that each I would request Imad to put that clip. And yet business start karnas khatras chhin funding. After that, it was flood of comments that how is it possible since I am not the expert. So same question goes to you. You stay vonuna ki heal the bahana. That really hit hard to people. That is, is it a joke? Everything starts with money. What Shafat Qazi is saying, please.
Well, I did say you thought I presume कि पोंसो बगर हैका लोग शितवां बकर है business मगर mission पोंसे मैं दब मैं तो आई तम सातन कि यम गई heal बहाने. And the best testimony of that is myself. I started my life with $700. I have not taken a single penny funding from anyone throughout my life. When you put real life examples of why I said you don't need money to start a business. What you really need is a determination to start a business. What you really need is a research to start a business. What you really need is a thought process to start a business. Somebody just approached me a few weeks ago and said, you know what, I want to open up a boutique, sell certain types of clothing in a store. I need some money. That's a typical approach of people. Last time I gave an example of somebody come to me, said, I want to open up a coffee shop. And I asked him, I said, where do you want to open a coffee shop? He said, in this village, 3 kilometers from Pulwama, whatever. I said, تَتہِ کۭتیاہ لُکھ روزان؟ تَتہِ ٲسۍ روزان 4-5 8 لُکھ. تَمہِ منٛز کۭتیاہ کافی چٮ۪وان؟ دوٚپُن یہِ چھَم نہٕ پاے کینٛہہ. توتہِ انداز لگان 1,000 کھنٛڈ آسہِ چٮ۪وان. تَمہِ منٛز کۭتیاہ یِنَے ژےٚ دۄہَے کافی چیٚنہِ؟ دوٚپُن 10 نفر یِن. کۭتِس کٕنَکھ ژٕ coffee? So once I started asking him these questions, he realized it was a bad idea. So point I was making is कि अगर तोय खोलुन छु पलवन हुंद store, what I like you to do is first research कि पलव कति अनब. येति कम distributors छु India's मंज, चाहे तोय वंतो अमृतसर पेट supplier छु. Make phone calls to them, contact them on social media. है तोय क्या inventory छु? तू कोता हेक में line of credit dit. अगर वो ये कन्न मे कोता profit margin छु? येति कमिस छु तु बे कन्नान. तोय छवा येति कम बे distributor or reseller. So do all that research first, and you'll be surprised. Many businessmen, including factories and ownerships, they will actually give you a line of credit if they see that you have done your research. So taking the money, going to, let's say, Delhi and buying a bunch of clothes from Karol Bagh and renting a store and putting your clothes there is not the way to start the business. That's a waste of money. I would never fund that person. The last thing I wanted to make a point on that, कि मैं क्या इस वुनिम गई हील बहान, मैं निश्चय लुकी हुआ है मैं इसका some rupees 5 लाख to start a business. Which is the one a business कुता like start करना, you know, all that research 5 लाख लगन. मैं this, how much are you willing to put yourself? When I make such a mission, 10,000 रुपये, मैं लगा वो हुई 10 लाख. Are you willing to put? Does your dad have money? Does he believe in you? So, as they say, charity begins at home. Before you go ask an investor like myself, help me with the money, I like to see what you have done in terms of research. Toy kitya contact you karmi, toy chwa line of credit karmi, established distributor and say, toy chwa pani pons lagauna khatar tayar, pani family hint pons lagauna khatar tayar, even to the point कि मैं उस एक साथ initially software उस लियाखुन मैं उस scooter ओनमुत, and instead of borrowing money I sold it and I decided to take public transportation until I got the money. So you can let go a lot of things. I mean, I see a person with an iPhone and all of that stuff looking for 1 lakh rupees. I said, well, the phone is for 1 lakh rupees. So it's just ask the phone. So that's the answer for Yumgai Hilbahan. Point I was trying to make is that it takes determination, it takes planning, it takes business modeling, and it takes a proper analysis. Spreadsheets, Google Docs show free, Google Sheets show free. Even social media spreadsheet tips on kit can the business plan create. Go do that research first. Put that plan together.
Mr. Qazi, how much is too much to sacrifice for your idea? Time, money, or peace of mind?
If your question is give up, in other words, the answer to that is after you have exhausted every little resource that you have. So if you're going to fail fast. The worst thing ak nafar hai ki business ka start marginal profit banai. Profit banai magar marginal profit banai. Magar dream che temis banam badbar company banabum. Magar banawan che marginal profit. Kharcha che niyaran. Even business chus bana lifestyle business. That much temis gadia who you nokar wokar and restaurants and maybe little vacations niyaran. And they get comfortable with it. But they didn't start with that lifestyle business. They wanted to create a multinational company or be a big entrepreneur.
Scale it globally.
So that's where I tell them, no, you are doing it wrong. If you really want to take this company to the level, invest every penny into your business and become global, become big. And yes, if it doesn't work, you'll know very fast. Eventually, you'll fail. Pack, move on to the next one.
Mr. Qazi, one user said partnership usually collapses in 4 to 5 years. How do you choose the right people and protect your dream from falling apart?
That's a very good question. I think I've been fortunate enough कि वो बनियों किस company में as partner, इमिस वो partner बनियों David Breholz, सोच में खुद बड़े senior, but he was generous guy. They got me offer partnership. And my principle of partnership immediately started trickling in, and I started thinking, "Okay, can banav your partnership successful?" So one of the rules I followed that I had in my mind was that I will make sure that Dave makes more money.
Ah,
I will make sure that Dave is in a better position after partnership than he was before. And I will make sure that his business thrives. And suitos aimi hisab or sonchan. When you have that kind of inclination where you are more worried about your partner's success than your own, and if your partner reciprocates that, then that partnership will boom. Trust is an extremely important element in partnership. Which means look the partnership in a rush. There are trust issues with the person. He's not honest. He lied to me about this. So do your homework. If you know that person from childhood, you have tremendous trust. That's a first foundational step. Number two, do you really want to do what I did, which is think more about your partner's happiness than your own? Last but not the least, don't partner with a person who has exactly the same skill set as you.
okay.
Partner
Why
with a
so?
person
What is the reason that when you say
because
so?
you want somebody who complements the business, fills the gaps. So in other words, agar tu chhu analytical, tu partner chhu artistic, perfect. So you want the right brain and the left brain to work.
True.
So that way the business is going to be wholesome. So a lot of people, what they do is they find a duplicate person who thinks like them, who agrees to everything they do. And then what you have is two of you. And that doesn't really grow the business in the other direction. So if you really want the business to grow in all directions, you need a partner who thinks the other way around and corrects you where you are not strong. So basically fills your gaps for your weaknesses.
You know, Mr. Qazi, this is my favorite question, as has been always. Do you need a degree or a rich dad or just guts and grits to start a business? I think it goes to the question number one.
Yeah.
When I say you said we don't require funds.
Correct.
But do you need these things which I mentioned?
So if in podcast episode 1, I also mentioned this. I have done my graduation from Bernal School, my bachelor's from NIT, my master's from New York, and throughout the process, I have done one employment and made 3 companies. But as a part of making 3 companies and running 3 companies, I've hired at least 1,000 people, if not more. I mean, I'm talking about personally hired that many
Great.
people. And I'll tell you this thing for sure. Okay, never have I ever asked anybody to show me the proof of their degree. Never. So you see, degree, you could really frame it and hang it on a wall in your family room and never show it to anyone. Doesn't really matter. Skill sets, what matters. Computer science degree karmas, and I would give him work, and then I would look at the quality of their work. And if I am impressed, I didn't really care what school he went to. He would thrive, he would grow in the company and prosper. Similarly, with business, you don't need degrees. You need to have the guts. You need to be risk taker, calculated risk taker. A lot of people take risks that are not calculated. So do your homework before you take the risk. But let the odds be against you. You know, you have to, if you're gonna grow, you have to be very competitive. So you have to do all the research and everything. So my own answer is just simple. Absolutely, you don't need a degree. You don't need a rich dad. You need guts. You need the know-how, and you need proper guidance from people that may have done this and succeeded or failed. Either way, you learn from them.
In Kashmir or other small towns, do ideas even stand a chance? Let's be honest, that we often think big dreams only work in big cities. What is your experience been? How do you break the mental wall of this geography?
That's a great question, Younus. When I went to US, at that point, the trend was people would go to Middle East, primarily Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iran. Some would go to Libya. And the reason for going to those countries was they would pay the engineers and doctors almost 5 times, 10 times more money, and it was easy money. They would give them accommodation. Life was good, right? And I decided to go to America at a very young age. And I was asked this question by many relatives at that point. Hey, ژےٚ کیٛازِ چھُے گژھُن امریکہ؟ سٲری گژھان چھِ سعودی عرب، بناو پونٛسہٕ تَتہِ ہُتہِ. امریکہ چھُنہٕ کِہیٖنۍ، تَتہِ چھُ گژھان خرچی سورُے. Love, which was true, by the way. But I had a simple notion. I wanted to be among the best. I said, even if I am a mediocre in that society, I'm still significantly better than the top guy in a country that's on the economic list of countries on the bottom of the list. So India was significantly behind. So was Saudi Arabia when it came to GDPs of the countries. Leave alone the innovation, science and technology. That was America varya bront. That was where my passion was, science and technology. So time mujub janab kor me choose to go to America. So my answer is that look at where your Mecca is.
True.
And go to the Mecca of your profession. If you want to thrive in technology, go to Silicon Valley. That there's everybody you meet there is a technologist. You learn so much from your peers. If you want to go ahead and be the best in making pashmina shawl, be in Kashmir. Because one of the best products we have from here is our shawls. And I won't go to Silicon Valley for that. So it is not necessarily city located. It is more like, will the city help me accelerate my end goal? Such important, Asan. Last point I wanted to make is also that there are companies that are now being started in Kashmir, and inshallah, I'm confident that some of them will be multi-million dollars, if not billion-dollar companies. And so you see a world is flat, as Thomas Friedman in Kitab Lishmus Asbron, that is coming true. World has become flat. My opportunities as to make an app. Use I guess American curious to make an app. My son, who's making an app in America, has the same tools that a kid in Srinagar has. So absolutely now it's a matter of nurturing them, mentoring them, and having more people like myself encourage them to do so.
Okay, Kaisa, when Rato was you comment of it, zyada tos what I say. Everybody, the social media is giving a privilege to anybody. Even if you don't have knowledge about business, you still feel like you sa commenta. Because like I said last time, that it's very easy to criticize and get a feeling that, someone else is going to read my criticism without having the proper research that what I'm writing. Yaad bhavana kyu social media behavior choice bachan hichnaun ki lekho kya, comment kya karo, share kya karo. Kyazki otan tayos ki yus bhavana chus agar kunjai beukuf os asan so stait alakas manz yos lagan ki suchu beukuf pata. Now the stupidity has been democratized. A stupid person in Srinagar, the 9 billion will people come to know that what is the stupid thought. Check in. So, yimti comment I actual use engagement. Alhamdulillah, tunde podcast sit. Yeah, a lot of engagement was there. Your videos, it will make you happy. It was showed in the auditoriums of the classrooms. It has been played in universities. And I was so happy that, a coaching center from Kupwara took the permission and said that I wanted to play this entire 80-minute podcast in his local coaching center. So I was so happy. Atmas when yimti comment, I tim comment to Lois.
Please.
One by one, to you at jawab.
First of all, I wanted to quickly comment that I'm so honored that people reacted so well to that first podcast, which was called Pozcast. And I am always honest and truthful. So the name resonated really well. But I did see the comments, and I do remember कि तोय कोरु में तम सातन call the book है ये ते गई बुछाड़ सवाल and his the comments and hence यमन दिमो जवाब. And I remember my answer to you is let's do episode 2.
I remember.
To cover that. So
Yes.
I'll just karan sui record inshallah.
Okay, guys, this is the actual discussion wherein I'll be taking comments. یُس گۄڈنیُک کامٮ۪نٛٹ اوس أمۍ نفرن ٲسۍ لگٲمٕتۍ لگ بگ 50 اِموجی اوس سیوٚد ٹرولِنٛگ کامٮ۪نٛٹ چھُس بہٕ اَتھ وَنان مگر یِمو چیٖزو سۭتۍ چھِ واریاہ ہیٚچھان کہِ یُس یہِ ٹرول کَرَن وول چھُ آسان یہِ چھُ اَنہِ گَٹہِ کَمرَس منٛز کُنہِ جایہِ یہِ موبایل تُلان أتی اَکہِ اوٚنٛگجہِ سۭتۍ کَران ییٚلہِ زَن أمِس دۄیو اوٚنٛگجو سۭتۍ اوس کَرُن تہٕ یہِ چھُ اَکہِ اوٚنٛگجہِ سۭتۍ لیکھان کیٛازِ اَتھ منٛز چھِ أمِس باسان پَنُن یہِ پاوَر کہِ وَلہ لیکھوا کینٛہہ without any knowledge, without any due diligence or research. Anyways, thank you so much for this comment. Amiz Lyuk, laughing emojis and said, without money, you cannot start anything. Is this a joke, Mr. Qazi? Is that true or just a mindset trap?
So I think I addressed this question already in the first part of this today's recording. You don't need money, you need determination to start a business. Shafat Qazi chu toy best example. Wudras yet put in $7 het. Me kor land me shvana university wal chi fees dun $50,000. The kosher pot shvana me pe Zangalur. Which was site het put $50,000
Karo jama.
Os the ba hek na afford kare satan hatan mas apartment panun bukait anim $50,000. So when I not only have created a multinational companies out of that and started businesses with no money, so can you. So the question now is, ki kith kanyat karb? So used to nafar chahan che business start karon tamis wan ba hamisha assume ki you have the money. Start the process. Let me see what your exact distribution centers are, where you're going to buy, what your market research is, what your competitive research is, what your total addressable market is, what percentage of penetration you are expecting to have in that total addressable market. What that means is, you want to become the biggest orange distributor in Kashmir. What you want to know is how many people eat oranges here every day and how many oranges will they eat, right? That multiplied by the price of an orange is your total addressable market. And what is your penetration? Kuta hai kyu tu penetrate karit? In other words, what can you displace existing people that are already selling oranges? So safe bet is usually 2% in first 2 years. Maybe if you're really good, if you're a disruptor, 10%, 15%. So yichi cheez chi janab ali what it takes to start a business, not money. Money is the last thing you need to start a business. First, you need that business plan, business model to start a business.
Isto ye sangtaran pudim na at petti what at sangtar comment tho me at now ki the book Shafat Qazi doesn't live in this land. So asna pan sangtar te khawan kin for him it's very easy to give a sermon that yes, a boy from Kashmir can live any global dream. What is your answer?
Well, first of all, choose sangtar khawan. And although sangtar is not a Kashmiri fruit, me shi yeti fruit saru ko zyada pasand. And one of my favorite things to do is yet wapas us gas America, which is yeti kin suit nima pana sit because that creates memory. And bei kandar suit yeti. So Shafat Janab as kosher can be. As a matter of fact, one of the kosher karanchus look harani gasan the one it's a jiviri gumit America's mutsukit kunchukit asal kosher. So the bunches one akuches ki bush me gates a jiviri magat sa January mas as bush sheet light and namti light your me khuli the office me kari the employee look me kari question se kat me tho rishtaran se rishte me kari sari tim cheez me chu ground reality thik pat pai. So me on garas chuna kunik smoke self propagation kare me on garas ke timan lokan awareness kare yim phasemich. In other words, phasemich between becoming somebody versus nobody, right? They are in that dilemma ki bikya kare bikit kin kare meshi wish me yet very ambitious businessmen, very entrepreneurial thinkers, but iman chun bicharen guidance. So timan khatar chimi on darwaz yala, and that's where I want to help.
Yeah, I want to take an opportunity right now that we are coming up with an amazing Shark Tank styled program, which Shafat Qazi doesn't like the name, but we are still thinking about the name. I have named it my humility Qazi Quest. where every student, every founder, every startup owner, or anybody who has an idea wants to live that dream, you can directly pitch to Shafat Qazi. That program we have decided that as soon as Sir returns US, we will chart out a plan for it, inshallah.
Younus, in addition to that, I just wanted to also mention recently my wife, Samina, and me, we started a non-profit organization called Sheen Productions Foundation.
Congratulations, sir.
So, time khatra janab tat kores otra launch video te, but time goal tichi yehai son culture, language, preservation
Heritage.
karein, kosher help karein. So it goes beyond language and music and arts. So any way we can help Kashmiris, we'll do it through that non-profit, inshallah.
True. And I would want to announce everybody in the town. I am so privileged that which will make you stand up and clap. That I'm sitting with a person who used to play with the Turch Nasan. This guy has played with the Tur and right now driving Tesla. So I call it tire to Tesla. I want a big round of applause from everyone.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
So comment to Turs Petty ke Daban Isha Poz ki Shafat Qazi os chalawan Tur to winkin chu chalawan Tesla. How do you feel now, sir?
So I think my generation has been one of the luckiest generation that we saw the biggest transformation of technologies from transistor to tape recorders to VCRs, camcorders, eventually cellular phones followed by internet. And now we're at self-driving cars.
You have seen everything, sir.
So, Janab, which was like his humble family, as I have mentioned last time, also my mother was a teacher, my father was a professor, and we lived in Jawahirnagar in a very middle-class neighborhood, and all my friends, that was our pastime. So, tour, so ज़्यादातर उसको steel so upgrade asan steel tour with a co, and the one without that steel rim was the easiest one to get. It actually makes you more resilient in life when you have seen the tough things in life. Then when you go become successful and comfortable, you're never afraid of failure or losing that because you already experienced that. It's the ones that are born with a silver spoon, right? Which is parents and khatras, especially one. Which is timan zarpar karan ke please do not give your son, your daughter money more than they need. Do not indulge them. Do not enable them. Let them face the hardship. Mish kurhas, mish ladka. I don't give them any money for at all. I want them to survive on their own. I want them to thrive on their own. I want them to have that sense of relevance and accomplishment. Otherwise, they end up driving their car into a brick wall one day because they get depressed. They feel purposeless. So, sky was the limit. Also, like ordinary neighborhood, my father didn't even have a bicycle, leave alone a car or a scooter.
Wow.
So for me, it was a drive that was most exciting part of the journey. And I want you to give that drive to your kids, even though you may have money. Tell them to go get it yourself. And they will thank you for it at some point.
I need your advice. I gave worry as a student, school, college to university. Poras one variant. Angreez poras, math poras. Magarelis graduation complete kar, na tok so Angreez karun. Na yus math to calculus os pormut, zindagi hund kah sawal togn solve karun. Physics, geography os pormut. North, east, south, west togna iskin. Yim gai worry. Worry is this meiti as teacher, as administrator, as academic counselor. I traveled end to end, east to west. I was in different countries as well. Worry is it me as an educationist. But suddenly goes hushar कि we actually never wanted this education, which is so obsolete, so irrelevant. It never gives you skills which makes you relevant to this world. When I'm on an entrepreneurial journey, to start a platform for those students who are stuck in this rat race syllabus to complete karun rote learning rattabazi chikan to end up with someone that I'm not getting ready for this world. So wish me mana ki mema kar galti मैं उसा करूँ कंटिन्यू पन सुबह शाम न्यूरन so job mentality because I actually wanted to live the dream but I thought no let me take the risk. What is your advice, honest advice, pose harsh pose even if it goes against my opinion? Do you think that I'm on the right path because I don't see any clarity and this is my second year?
So there's multiple questions in your question. First part that I pulled out was, is our current education system the right education system for our kids? Where we make them go through that drill of jumping through the hoops of math and science and calculus and physics and chemistry and biochemistry and anatomy.
So Dhanvaryan.
And then they end up becoming, say, a doctor. So the calculus comes no use to them. In my particular case, I felt like school was more like a training for testing my strengths and my weaknesses. I didn't do that good in biology, so I knew my weakness. I wasn't that interested in biochemistry, but I was thriving in math and science, physics, even electronics. So it did clearly remove the fog from my mind as to where I am more passionate or naturally inclined to succeed. If my school would have taken me at that point and said, forget all of these things, you need to be a technologist, let's just teach you technology, would that have been good or bad? I don't know. But I can tell you one particular example. To be master's was karan, bosus computer science was minor karan, structural engineering was major karan. I saw some prerequisite to take certain classes that were outside of our engineering curriculum. And merit of prerequisite was accounting. Why accounting? Because I was an entrepreneur. Accounting is the language of business. I always encourage people to go and teach you accounting before you start a business. But fast forward 10 years when I started BQE software after my master's. And then another 4 or 5 years, I added the accounting piece to my software. And it was that one class, what I learned from that class, that helped me shape up the accounting software. So Steve Jobs' calligraphy class was what he helped him derive the fonts. So I don't think the schools are pluses or minus, but what I do feel is when people come out of school, and this happens a lot when I interview people, they have passed the tests, but they haven't really mastered anything. And that's where I feel we have a flaw. And your system, sir, is brilliant. If we could make them masters of their strengths, that's where communities and societies thrive. I mean, look at Bill Gates, look at Mark Zuckerberg. None of them completed Harvard. They immediately were given the right platform, the right money. Peter Thiel invested in Mark Zuckerberg at a very early age. And look at Facebook, look at Instagram, look at WhatsApp, all of these technologies that now come under his leadership. So what you are trying to do is you're trying to create Mark Zuckerberg's, Bill Gates in the society. But at the same time, the system needs to, it will take them another 10, maybe 20, maybe 30 years to understand what you're doing. So, but you'll move the needle for sure. There will be people that will sign up for your programs because there are people who are now understanding that it's not all about education. It's about being master in something that you can then capitalize in your life.
Didn't you back comment Lekhana ki since Shafat Qazi has not lived in Kashmir in 2008, 2010, 2014, 2016, you may veri yat maz varya instability is financially, politically Kashmir maz. Yeah, so a parent is writing, what's your take on all these years when there was lot of instability in Kashmir? Should we still bet on startups here?
So there's two types of bets you make on startups. One is the bet on the concept of the business, right? What is the product? What does the team look like? What is the end goal? What's the, what are the chance of success? Then there is another bet called geopolitical location. Geopolitical location is more like, is there a threat? Is the, for example, if you were to start a company in Brunei, as an example, where the king controls everything. So it's this uncertainty that he may one day say, you know what, all of you are in the prison, right, for unknown reason. So there's no rule of law there. So I won't invest in a company in Brunei, as an example.
Okay.
So Srinagar, Kashmir is a geopolitical risk, or at least was a geopolitical risk back then. Companies were feeling, hesitant to invest. As a matter of fact, one of the private equity investors was fortunate enough कि बाहो company कर में tzadjo company कर में offer में कर shortlist bah companies बाहो मज कोर में तिमन interview एक company को drop out मैं तो तुम इससे कैसे करो drop out तो उन्हें कश्मीर च geopolitical risk ये चीज़ जुसास वहीच कथ तम साथ उस गुमत ना August 19 जुसास 19 August 5 so yes private equities in America timo wush ये risk तो ये करो but यम अकलमंद तम आई पान योर तमो वुच क्या हिसाब किताब तो ग्राउंड रियलिटी वुच डिफरेंट एंड ओवरऑल इंडिया कर्मुत वो कंफर्टेबल यम प्राइवेट इन्वेस्टर्स सो ये लुक वो करान इन्वेस्ट कशीर मज तम करान कशीर मज इन्वेस्ट कह तम करान इंडियन लॉजन मज इन्वेस्ट सो इंडियन वो करमत लॉज वेरी फेवरेबल टू इन्वेस्टर्स एंड एंटरप्रेन्योर्स एंड फॉरेन बिजनेसेस सो एब्सोल्युटली अगर तुम जॉन ड्रीम बह हेको तुम 10 कंपनी हंद एग्जाम्पल दित यम थ्राइव गमच स्मॉल सिटीज में वर स्मॉलर देन श्रीनगर एंड तम बन मल्टी-नेशनल कंपनीज तो तुहस तक बन
अख स्टूडेंट पृछान सर अमिस मोल मोज वन सिर्फ कि गोबर यथ सिस्टमस मज एजुकेट गसन सिर्फ अमुक मकसद कि हसा मेरी लास्टस पे जॉब
गवर्नमेंट
जॉब टू बी वेरी स्पेसिफिक गवर्नमेंट जॉब ये बच्चे में वनान सर anonymously sir why are we still obsessed with government jobs when the world is building billion-dollar startups from dorm rooms? Is it also possible for me if I have a big idea and a mentor like Shafat Qazi, is it possible that I can also thrive?
Absolutely. It was not as easy for me because tamsat asna access to the tools yes आज छुस बत सु चैट GPT करान यूज जुस तुह करान छो यूज अमेरिकास मज आज छुस बत तम सॉफ्टवेयर करान यूज जो तुह करान छो यूज एज अ मैटर ऑफ फैक्ट you have it at a more affordable price than me.
You beautifully said कि Kopwar किस बचस ति सोई access human resources.
Exactly.
ये Silicon Valley में.
Silicon Valley. Exactly. So yes, now the big question comes in. And this is something that I'm very passionate about. Which was literally beg kara parents and ki don't send your kids to government jobs. Because it boxes you. You might as well build a steel cage and put that child in that steel cage for the rest of his life.
There's a famous movie by Omelette, The Box.
The Box.
Box bana
ये जनाब ची आठ दाबस में फंसो ना ये बनियो ब्यूरोक्रेट ये बनियो पेपर पुशर ये पकना कागज हुत पे योर ये पे होर बे करनस corrupt mentally ते physically ते ethically ते and बे करनस and his whole focus would be to work within the system and not be kicked out because it's like a mafia, you should bureaucracy is something that, as you know right now, Trump and Elon Musk tim chipad against that ke atmash wastage ti wagera society chi timai gasan prosper yet privatization ase private entrepreneurs asan California mas vano butoi mechna ak dost yus government job karan Michun ak acquaintance, vendor, you government job karan kohin. Timchi tita minority taite bono tai ki bebasan Los Angeles muz I say less than 0.0005% people are working for government. 99.9% of the people should panning private company. Ya private company si ya panning company. In America, Shivana small business is the big business. That 6 million small businesses gonna start every day.
My God.
Every day. So that is the reason कि सुमुलक वोत युता ब्रोंट क्याज़ कि तिमो कोर cultivate so environment business start
Box mentality must drive them.
yeah. So इसलिए छुस बह वनान कि शेष विंकस इमाद सबने studios मज he is an entrepreneur. I'm कोर ये के government job करित ये के बने DOP government is right.
Mr. Asan gare wana.
But look at the number of people.
I said the first thing in the morning. We have a big company now.
So I personally think that we need more people that think outside the box like him. And not only are they creating employment and money for themselves, but also they are helping others. And many of his interns that are working here, I bet you many of them will open their own studio someday.
And he will be happy.
Because he will be their inspiration. So, many employees, imo pani companies, pani software, IT companies, and I get very happy to see that because that's what you want to do. You want to make them come and get nurtured and then repart them somewhere else.
Basic reality چھُ اگر بہٕ کٲنٛسہِ خۄجَس نِش کٲم چھُس کران أتی وَنہٕ بہٕ أمِس ہے سر بہٕ تہِ حظ کَرٕ ہا پَنُن سٹاٹ تَمہِ وِزِ یُس خۄجَس چھُ نا بُتھ گژھان اللہ بچٲیِن سُہ چھُ دَپان یہِ تہِ کَرِ ہا وۄنۍ سٹاٹ.
So Guna, if you steal his intellectual property, so for example, let's say you are a carpet weaver and you have a certain intellectual property on how you weave the carpets. You worked there, he taught you, and now you go steal that know-how and you create a competition for him. Of course, he's going to be unhappy.
Magar allowed chai ethically?
Absolutely.
Like you said, I will also, have a software company.
Absolutely.
I also want to start a software company because you have taught me that.
So California was a non-compete law karna un sign employee na ite karna wa. Timane jaban ki by agar tu yeti niru, tren variant hekinu tu esse compete kirit ke. Sukor government and taite illegal declare. So we ke bakwas. Karin se competition ade hechun hoye agar by I'm soor karken sahka kamis sue karitat. Intellectual property theft, that's a separate crime. But if he has gained knowledge, whether he was working with you or whatever, he uses that knowledge to create his own company, that's absolutely fine. As long as he hasn't done anything that is considered to be stealing of the knowledge from your company in terms of intellectual property, something that he's not supposed to reuse without paying you the royalty, as an example. So absolutely, which is beg karan the day I would see people saying, I don't want to work for government is going to be my... Me sala employee yeti government job mila timai sala. Why I wapas ti pata? They realize ki hey, it's a paper pusher. But in the bigger picture, that's where our future is. Look at Hyderabad. Look at Bangalore. Mm-hmm. Where do you find government employees in Bangalore? Nowhere.
And actually, the private sector has flourished the state.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hyderabad is thriving in economy right now
recently
because of private sector.
Mm-hmm. अच्छा ये दिन अख controversial question यथ हेकवा तुझ जवाब दित पोज तो पजर पट
कोशिश करो
question छु अख parent वनान कि isn't chasing government jobs now the lowest standard in the world अथ हेकवा तुझ कन logical जवाब दित युथ parent ति वन्या कि तमिश बासन ये सारे खुद बड़ highest prestige छु पनुन बच्चे rote learning, obsolete system, education maz ye karit, emis torture karit, vanan nasa gubra, tshi akki option. Ya she se banan doctor engineer, na che karin government job. Tu hekwi ye prove karit ki ye kit kanchak lowest standard thinking.
Well, engineer ends up working for a government anyway. Even to some extent doctors do. But you have to think of government as a company. Pictures? At company
yeah, true. Give a great insight.
At company CEO, so typically asan chief minister of the state. The patchat company managers, tim gai typically the ministers. Patchat company asan assistant managers, tim gai divisional commissioners and all that. So it is absolutely okay for you to dream to work in a company. Certain company, doesn't really matter. Let's say it's Microsoft. Let's say it's Google. And the key should be, why do you want to work there? Agar bach chahan chus bakar Google me should dream Rosemary Bukar Google must come, and my passion in working Google is because I want to work in their AI team. I want to work on Gemini because I'm passionate about it. That's absolutely okay. But the problem you have to understand in Srinagar especially wasn't that people wanted to work for government for to thrive in a certain field. It was that the firing, the layoffs, the firing based on performance was almost zero. You could be a dumb person, completely incompetent person, you would not be fired. Government jobs was isne kadan kiya, winti chine kadan kiya. Yeti ch kadan wine government jobs was teli ilin newspaper sure vati kari blunder. Pachu banasu scapegoat sunyu so you can lock junior employees na kadi. So otherwise isne government. So primarily kathos asan yehai ki use government job kari. I'm such a zindagi khatar job, be retirement, pension, bacho. Achno instability ki. Humi sosna khandri banan businessman walis. Temos mas pai pagar que esse sale. Ems das pai ems child tanka ems khaisa do kodo e position athos roadmap the corporate ladder bunit. So that has now changed in three aspects. Number one, Jammu Kashmir government no longer gives you pension. So it's not the same anymore because you now have to put money towards your retirement. It's not the same amount as it used to be. Number two, people are seeing better opportunities than government in private sector, and they are building their apps in the dorms. Ke biti banao app hostels mas and taiti perchinia randem kasanji. Which was I'm a board member for Gatos, which is a food delivery app. So timon prusme toikat kuru shuru timotish kormut timos Chandigarh paran timotish dormitory music kurumse app shuru. So I'm seeing that trend, but I won't consider it the lowest or the highest, but it's really more like insecurity. What makes you want to work for government? Insecurity about yourself. But if you're confident, if you know that whatever you're going to get into, you're going to thrive, or whichever company you're going to work for, you're going to be an indispensable asset for that company, then you don't have to worry about where you should be working.
Varya teacher kor comment to his podcast aspect. So you select comment code. You are close to our discussion. Teacher comment show ke in real world entrepreneurship, what are students missing in our education system?
Our students are missing the language of business, which is accounting. I have seen very low emphasis on accounting in Kashmir, even in colleges, even in universities.
Accounting, we teach outdated theories in accounting,
Exactly.
not business reality.
Exactly. So I'm talking about accounting as it relates to today.
How do we fix this gap between degrees and real world results?
I think your school of thought, where we should really figure out what the person is good at and give them the skill set to thrive in that area, is a good recipe for everyone in the world. Even in America, people are now sending their kids to schools where they're taught a certain skill set rather than taught multiple things which they have otherwise no interest in using. So that's the biggest gap in education system that I like to fill. And the second thing I mentioned, accounting and business entrepreneurship, even classes are shouldn't I was fortunate, my teacher Owen Cole, was my hamsai guy Javai Both of them stories about various scientists, various entrepreneurs, things like so kitab. That was my inspiration. So tell people the success stories of successful people. Let them start dreaming those and becoming those. I was impressed with Edison and Tesla and Einstein. Einstein was my role model, and I was like, look how much he's contributed to the world. What can I do to solve the problems and contribute? So do you even give inspiration? Because then you're taking the inspiration out of them. The purpose is missing.
A student of DPS is asking, कि Kashmir shouldn't basan pay asar? A student of DPS is asking, how will AI reshape jobs in Kashmir, careers, and startups in Kashmir in next to 5 to 10 years? Kashmir is pay AI asar, we are safe.
No, no, AI space, AI will impact the entire world. I tell people that सारी खुद zubid revolution से पकाना से आगो artificial intelligence or actually artificial general intelligence
AGI,
AGI. So them gay autonomous driving,
electric
which will then
vehicles.
be implemented combination into even robotics. So Yeli, you are our cell phones, Zasas, Soros Mazar, your cell phones, mobile phones. America's Mazar, Zasas, 1994, 95 Asmas. So, yes, Kashmir is, usually few years behind, let's say Los Angeles, but it's not completely behind. Today, 99% of the transactions businesses do are online in Kashmir. And it used to be 0% only 10 years ago.
Okay.
So that's a perfect example of how technology quickly penetrates because it disrupts the old system, and the new system is 10 times better than the old system. So Chitakini, because AI is 10 times better than the old system, it will disrupt the current system.
Okay, we have a comment from a graduate from Kashmir University. What should young Kashmiris be worried about and excited about at the same time when it comes to future careers?
Young Kashmiris that are knowledge workers, such as lawyers, engineers, doctors, they definitely should be worried about artificial intelligence being the first go-to place for a common man. Agar मे आसान legal question का आस बह छुस पृछान chat GPT या ग्राहकस सो सवाल ब्रोंठस बह lawyers phone करा तमिस तस billable hours नेरान ता सो पे पत invoice सोजान so go वारिया कम. So we're already seeing where the service-based professional service-based businesses, anything that involves knowledge workers, that may get disrupted. So they should be worried about that. But at the same time, that is also an opportunity. So the opportunity there is that embrace the artificial intelligence, understand how LLMs work, understand how GPT works, build your own LLMs, create your own GPTs using some specialized skills. For example, if you are an architect and what you want to do is take all your designs and teach the GPT how you think and how you design and how homes are designed in Kashmir, then you can make that GPT work for you to provide designs faster and cheaper to your clients.
Acha, Qazi Sahab, China recently mandated AI studies in first standard. So, ma parnaman in theory, tim panaman practically, and we are still debating screen time for kids. Tuhus kya message roze ki screen time kitken karan regulate parents. Now there is good screen time, bad screen time. तो China लोग first pattern AI पर now. Tuhus kya message roze parent and the school owners and Ethan.
I think it's one of those transition periods that we're seeing in our lives where we're not really sure what is the right amount of time a kid should be on the phone. And as you correctly said, there's a good screen time, bad screen time. If your son or daughter is on phone, but she's watching a video that's a podcast from you where entrepreneur tips are being provided, that's healthy screen time. But if she or he is on reels or on Twitter or X watching political propaganda or fake news that spreads disinformation, that's hurtful. That's where the parenting comes in. That's the parent's job to understand what exactly is our child working. You'd be surprised that pretty much every big company phone will give you the details of how your child spent the time on their phone. How much of it was YouTube, how much of it was Instagram, how much it was this, and what kind of videos they watched. So parents and parenting, but overall, it's okay to have a lot of screen time as long as it's educational and healthy screen time.
अच्छा ब्याक चीज यम सन बच्चे ना यम चाहे स्क्रीन सी मन जाए ना यम पेरेंट्स क्या छु बासान ये मतलब अख पेरेंट युस न जाव स्क्रीन टाइमस मज तम सिंद खतर अलग डिस्ट्रैक्शंस तम वक्त 90s 80s मज ये पेरेंट्स कित कन कर सिंक कि सन बच्चे जाए एक्चुअली यूट्यूबस मज तम वन जामती कि तिमन तंगा सो नेविगेट कर ये कित कन कर पेरेंट सिंक इन actually there's no problem with your kids with our kids to be part of this ever changing digital world. Es kim zain atmaz Magar Mitch, as a parent, I feel like, bache gësna asin zamit screen time as much. I don't have a proper answer for this. So
I
how is
think
thinking this?
I personally admire our Gen Alpha and Gen Z and Gen Y, especially Gen Z to Gen Alpha, which is why I admire kara. Which is parents and vanan ki in most cases we are the old dog trying to teach ourselves new tricks, which they say, you can never teach an old dog new tricks. So agar tu wuchu son Gen Alpha, son Gen Z, yim chu brilliant. Yimo chu banomut ye screen yathis vanan chu communication devices, yimo chu banomut integral part of our life. So my advice to any parents and let go. Do the bigger supervision, not the micro supervision. You see, micro supervision, so helicopter parent yat vananch. Tim karanch parents and children's confidence khatam. So ma bari fikir ki agar ye various kalas phones pitch. As long as you know ki ya chit healthy screen time.
True, sir. Yet you varying online influencers. Yum kune dukanas chi gasan. Vanan cha ampat yasa azas so sale. The tampat used to my association of shopkeepers. Tim chi daba ina sashunu sahi tariqa. You should question like a shopkeeper and chukonmut yak. The online e-commerce is eating into our local market. What is your take on how small shopkeepers can survive this wave?
This is a very tough question. First of all, which was highly encouraged kara har kanse shopkeepers ki temis ti gais aso online store. Vanchi ke apps amtsa yum easily to onboard karna and you pay just a very
Minimal
small fee.
charges, yes.
Minimal charges. To hun tu ti bani online hai ki tu ti kare. Once the secondary question that you mentioned about the sale, so there are very clever marketing techniques being used nowadays to yathis vanancha is one of clickbait, one traffic bait. So they drive traffic to your store. I suppose America's most
Correct.
You see shopkeeper association galat. They need to change. They cannot fight against the e-commerce. E-commerce is the future, right? So they have to adopt e-commerce is what they have to do. But one of the marketing it's very common in America. Car dealership puts one car on the newspaper ad. Ye car is $3,000 is the one yasa show $15,000. The yim cha I'm car hund VIN number lekhan talke ads mas. Laput sushnu parna yivan. Patil tour gasan chna look. The one so car kuni. Socha asan timo kunis $15,000 ikis nafaras. So car kun maga chedimo discount wall. So traffic driving gimmicks exist all over the world. Whoever is driving and traffic saying I'm going to sell 3 jeans for 200 rupees, he's going to make one promise maybe and he's obliging legally. Agar ye 3 jeans can you ikis customers for 100 rupees, I'm core legally obligated. So marketing gimmicks, there are personally I think they are unethical marketing gimmicks, but that's your competition. So you can create your own marketing or you can create a counter marketing that tells people that, hey, that's not a right thing to
TikTok
do.
TikTok and you right exactly. Now. This, I think jago grahak jago ikarun switch better. A small business owner asked, what should we do to ensure survival, profit, and long-term growth? Survival, profit, and long-term growth.
So survival is, I mentioned that in my last episode too, survival is to make sure that you are growing at a good growth rate. So mishitam sat a formula tachona golden rule of 40. 40 as much as growth and profit margin percentages should add up to 40%.
Traffic.
So point I was making, you see GPM 40 as long as you're maintaining that, you will survive, you will thrive, and you will be sustainable. But if you don't follow that rule, then you are a questionable company. Agar tum's company 5% grow annually to 10% profit, that's not a good company. अगर तुम बनावान छो 40% profit मगर growth छो किहन गसान but your year after year 40% profit सु छ ठीक company बह छुस prefer करान जनाब अली सो company यस 3% grow करे 10% profit बनाए I like more growth than profit because profit then growth can be later on be converted into profit easily.
Mr. Qazi, my brother Tariq Beg from Bangalore has a good question for you. He calls it a great question. That what is Shafat Qazi's vision 2040? What kind of Kashmir you want?
I always think about this question myself is if I were in charge per se, what would I want to see change in Kashmir? It's not what will actually happen, what my dream is. First of all, I would want to see peace in Kashmir. It has been the biggest
Inshallah.
pain point that every Kashmiri child has, experienced. People around the world have no idea the trauma our kids have gone through, especially those that were born between 1991 or grew during 1991 till 2016. So, my first wish is obviously peace. My second wish is abundance of entrepreneurs all over, popping like flowers pop up in spring everywhere. Be a role model city for every aspect. India, I have traveled India quite a bit. Kashmir is relatively very clean, but I like to see it grow and stabilize in traffic, in communication, in infrastructure, electricity, and the GDP and the average income. I personally think that the brain power here is second to none, but we're unfortunately, due to the political challenges we have faced in last 70, 80 years, we have been our growth has been stalled. So Bush's Khodais Mangan ki ak peace, and then through that peace also give us the platform. Good thik, magar environment was nice khatra thik. So our bridges were burned down. We couldn't cross across the street to where we wanted to go. So there were people like me that have left Kashmir. And if you look at all of them, they're so successful. Every one of them thriving in their own profession, doctors, engineers, entrepreneurs. So that proves that Kashmiris actually are smart, but unfortunately our conditions didn't allow us. So my hope is 240, Kashmir will be better than Switzerland. I like to see this, Kashmir is Switzerland of the Asia, but I like to see Switzerland of the Asia economically.
Mr. Qazi, before final sign off, I want to ask you that yeli tui you started living your own dream. Tamiz asan varya tuin friends, they would have laughed at you, criticized you, and even tried to stop you that what you are trying to follow is going to end up with a big, big failure. Tim friends, the rishtadar, the tim dos asya, and what was your feeling that time?
I was fortunate enough that I had very few people that actually pulled me down. I was often lucky to be surrounded by people actually that encouraged me, from my teacher to my mother to my father, my sisters, then my wife Samina. She has been the biggest boost for me in everything I did, despite the fact that financially she's restrained, but she never complained. Not only that, she actually helped me accelerate in what I wanted to do. But there were obviously other people that I met that basically said, "Why are you wasting time?" And to those people that hear that, don't focus on the negative portion of the message, focus on the red flags within the message. And make a note of those red flags, because every business entrepreneur should know all of the traps that they have in their path where they can fall and fail. And if somebody makes you aware of it, take that as a positive criticism and avoid those traps.
So, thank you, Mr. Qazi, for being here in the studios of Mia Infotech for creating a better tomorrow, a better Kashmir. This was Pozcast second episode. Up until next time, before we leave, we'll have the final message from Mr. Qazi.
Well, I want to thank Imad for his time and thank Younus for your time, and thank everybody. That I have received thousands and thousands of messages myself for the first episode, thanking me for all the things that I said in there. So hopefully you all will listen to it again if you forgot about it. But once again, help me help you is the message from me. So reach out to me if you have an idea. Younus will send more details about how to do that. Let's build a big breed of entrepreneurs in Kashmir.
Inshallah, sir, inshallah. So up until next time, keep questioning, keep commenting. और कोई चीज़ थे जो याद, anything is possible if you have a burning desire to excel and make your parents proud, make Kashmir proud. Be Khuda sawal. Kashmir Zindabad. Assalamu alaikum.
Salam alaikum.